The revolutionary moment in 1905 was in many ways a dress rehearsal for what was to come. For one, Russian Social Democrats tested their credibility in an actual revolutionary situation. Through the revolution, for example, they learned new strategies. They forgot some old assumptions and learned that their organizational differences were deeper than questions over membership. Volume 9 is made up of many small articles, but the major work in it is titled Two Tactics of Social Democracy in the Democratic Revolution, in which Lenin explicates the Bolshevik and Menshevik tactics during the bourgeois revolutionary stage. Lenin was really invested in this point in the idea of the minimum and maximum programs, and he believed that there were members of the party looking to enact the maximum program prematurely. In a passage that I think speaks directly through history, Lenin wrote that, quote, the degree of Russia's economic development, an objective condition, and the degree of class consciousness and organization of the broad masses of the proletariat, a subjective condition, inseparably bound up with objective condition, make immediate and complete emancipation, the maximum program, impossible. Only the most ignorant people can close their eyes to the bourgeois nature of the democratic revolution which is now taking place. Only the most naive optimist can forget how little as yet the masses of the workers are informed about the aims of socialism and the methods of achieving it. What the Bolsheviks and Mensheviks debated at this time was the nature of what would be a provisional government and the stages of revolution. Lenin argued that in the case of the democratic revolution, whereas the Mensheviks were willing to march side by side with the liberal and monarchist bourgeoisie, the Bolsheviks only compromised with the revolutionary and republican bourgeoisie. These articles are interesting because in them you see, of all things, Lenin defending capitalism as a natural historical stage that must be experienced. For instance, he says that, quote, the idea of seeking salvation for the working class in anything save the further development of capitalism is reactionary. Lenin understood that without adequate development of capitalism, the working class could not achieve proper consciousness. One cannot skip a stage as the Narodniki and the anarchists imagine. Much later, when we get to the new economic policy, passages like this will speak to Lenin's long-term awareness that developed capitalism is an important basis for the development of socialism. The topic of a provisional government, Lenin also outlines for the first time how he sees the dictatorship of the proletariat playing out. He writes that when the proletariat do achieve decisive victory, it will, quote, rely on military force, on the arming of the masses, on an insurrection, and not on institutions of one kind or another established by law or peaceful way. It can only be a dictatorship, for realization of the changes urgently and absolutely indispensable to the proletariat, and the peasantry will evoke desperate resistance from the landlords, the big bourgeoisie, and Tsarism. Thus, the bourgeois revolution had to play out before the proletariat could seize power. This conversation exists within the realm of hypothetical, but it's important that the revolution of 1905 gave real cause for the party to work out theories like this. In the boycott of the Bulygin Duma and insurrection, Lenin weighs whether the party should boycott the consultative legislative body of the Duma, not to be confused with the actual legislative Duma that comes after October 1905. And Lenin argues that the responsibility of the Marxists must be to take advantage of the bourgeoisie's work of destroying the autocracy by using the moment to enlighten the masses to the socialist aims and their irreconcilable antagonism with the bourgeois interests. The boycott is not simply abstention, but an opportunity to extend agitation. By September 1905, Lenin recognized that because the landlords and capitalists showed no interest in allowing the people to take part in the consultative Duma elections, the Social Democrats must respond by using the Duma, one, as an opportunity to intensify agitation, organize meetings, utilize the election campaign and demonstrations, two, center the agitational campaign on slogans calling for an insurrection, a revolutionary army, and a provisional revolutionary government. Three, gain adherents. Four, support the boycott idea. And five, ruthlessly exposed the bourgeois theory of compromise in the Bourgeois Compromisers. Lenin writes an article called Argue About Tactics But Give Them a Clear Slogan, where he points out that the difference between Iskra, the Menshevik organ, and Proletari, the Bolshevik organ, views on tactics are open for debate and should be debated, but that slogans themselves need to be agreed upon and they need to be clear. October 1905, the working class of Moscow organized a general strike, and the Tsar granted universities limited autonomy, immediately giving rise to new revolutionary circles of students who aimed to work directly with the workers. The opening of the university put the liberal bourgeoisie in a bind. If you close the universities, it would spark student response, but if you keep the universities open and you would allow a platform for revolutionaries to reach the workers. In Lessons from the Moscow Events, Lenin pointed out how certain opportunists within the party wanted to recoil from the revolutionary activity. The struggle therefore demonstrated the social alignments of Proletari, the Bolshevik organ, with the revolutionaries and the liberal monarchists seeking to negotiate. Then, on October 17, 1905, Tsar Nicholas II, facing the pressure of a riot to civil society, relinquished some autocratic power by proclaiming the October Manifesto, creating a legislative Duma with full legislative power. Lenin considered this as the first victory in what would be a long revolutionary process, but one worth celebrating. But the struggle was far from over. A new development necessitated new criticisms and a new pitched battle with the bourgeoisie, now given more power. Thanks for listening. Until next time.